Hello! In today's episode, I'm going to explain the various types of chopping boards we can find on the market and the key differences between each one, the pluses and the minuses. There are the most common type of material is wood or bamboo, which technically is not wood. Bamboo is a grass that grows really quickly and has a strong structure, but it isn't considered as wood. There's also these plastic, which are also very common ones. Then there's other materials like glass and ceramic and these kind of brittle materials. There's also stainless steel chopping boards and a lot of other variety of composites that can be found on the market. So let's break it down. Starting with wood, which is the most common first thought that comes to mind is wood. It's knife friendly. When you're chopping, it's not going to destroy the sharp edge of the knife because it's slightly soft, so it leaves space for the knife to dig into every cut. It's attractive. Some of these chopping boards are a work of art, so they're quite nice. However, since it's wood, and wood was a tree before it became a chopping board, those microtubules inside, they're still absorbent. They can absorb liquid from the food you're chopping, and because of that they can also absorb microbes and harbor them on the inside. They can also deteriorate with time. When they dry up, they also tend to crack, so they will eventually create spaces for microbiology to start to grow. Moving on to plastic ones. Plastic ones are quite sturdy. They tend to last a really long time. They're quite cheap. They're non-porous, so bacteria can't grow inside of them. With time, with chopping on these boards, with time, cracks starts to develop, and these will eventually become harboring areas for bacteria to grow. So it's not a material that starts good, remains good. You have to take care that the conditioning of this chopping board is still in good condition. There's also another issue with plastic boards that with time these chopping boards will release microplastics, both because they are being denatured with the knife activity, and also with heating in dishwashers, these start to break down slightly. Even though there might be high density polyethylene or HDPE, which is normally the most common type of material. Plastic is also slightly stronger than the wood counterpart, so it tends to dull the knife with time as well. It's not too knife friendly. And as you all know, plastic is not ecologically friendly, so at some point we need to throw it away. It's not gonna degrade, but it is at best recycled. Moving on to glass now. Glass is really a hygienic material. It's non-porous. It doesn't absorb any odors at all. It doesn't stain. So it's really a very good material from those aspects. However, it tends to be very brittle. If you do not take extra care, it can have shards coming out of it and it can break. It's also very heavy to have a glass block, so it's not something you want to be carrying around a lot. And it is very taxing on the edge of a knife. The moment you hit, the edge of the knife starts to flatten and all your knives will become blunt in a very brief period of time. One other thing which is also to be thought of is the slipperiness or the lack of friction. Glass is really slippery. In the past I used to talk to fishermen when I used to work in a fisheries environment, and they all used to love the wood because a fish sticks to the wood but it will slip on plastic. So does on glass. It's really slippery. The fourth type is stainless steel. Stainless steel pluses are It's super durable. It will last a lifetime if given the right treatment. It's easy to sanitize, non-porous, doesn't absorb anything, difficult to stain as well, and easily found in the market. It's harsh on knives, so chopping on a stainless steel chopping board will ruin a knife quickly. It's noisy when chopping, so it doesn't absorb the sound. It's clanky. It's slippery. Unless it has grooves in it, it's quite slippery, and quite expensive too. A good grade of stainless steel, it's quite expensive. Bamboo. I had several people asking me about bamboo in the past few courses I had. Bamboo's pluses are primarily its eco-friendly status, because bamboo tends to grow really quickly compared to wood, and it is a grass, as we said earlier, not a tree. So it's quite eco-friendly even when you're done with it and you're gonna scrap it because it's beyond use. This can easily degenerate with the normal process in nature. It's more resistant than wood, so the material of a bamboo, the layers of bamboo, will be more resistant than a wooden chopping board, so that adds a little layer of protection for a bacterial growth. They're quite heavy, they're quite light. A slip, Freudian slip there. They're quite light, so they're easily to be carried around. They have an effect on knives, slightly more than wood does. And one of the last cons of bamboo, if it's not used for a while, it dries up, it cracks, and all of a sudden you have two chopping boards rather than one now. So that can also happen. Lastly, it's the composites. These are the resin boards that nowadays modern countertops have a variety of quartz and other resin made surfaces. They're quite knife friendly and hygienic, so they don't absorb and get things going into them, but they can stain. Some of these materials can absorb the coloring in certain foods and drinks, so although it might not be dirty, the staining will remain there. They will not look nice, and they're quite expensive. So from that side point of view, I wouldn't choose to have a composite. There's also other types like ceramic, granite, marble. These are also fancy materials to have. They're quite heavy because they're dense, and normally they're chosen for their style rather than anything else. But they tend to chip, they tend to stain, they blunt a knife really quickly because they're hard materials. And if you're gonna use for chopping, like for example having a whole rabbit and you're gonna chop to break bones, eventually they tend to split into two because they're quite strong under pressure, but shearing forces, they're not quite strong. So I hope I answered all your questions related to chopping boards. If you have any other material that I didn't mention, please come forward, message me and get in contact. See you.